Hey everybody, how's it going? Hope you're having a lovely day. Today I thought I'd read an article. I shouldn't say article, I'd read a lawsuit that I found interesting. Many of you have been sending me a link to this lawsuit, but I'm not really interested in the article because the article doesn't go into much, and I'm interested in the actual lawsuit. This is a class action lawsuit. It says Jeff Dietrich and Jessica Farrell, individually and on behalf of others similarly situated versus Audible. Plaintiffs Jeff Dietrich and Jessica Farrell, and by through their attorneys, bring this action on behalf of themselves and all similarly situated. Plaintiffs make the following allegations. So this is about being brought against Audible for violating the California Digital Property Rights Transparency Law. This is an interesting law that I've been talking about that unfortunately is not enforced in the state of California. It says that if you are selling something and you claim that the digital good is something that you have sold somebody, but you do not have lifetime access to it, or it can be taken away, that you are falsely advertising that good. And in this video, I went over an example of a textbook where you can buy it and it says that you have access to a lifetime license. They literally sell it to you at different time periods. You can buy it for 180 days, a year, or a lifetime, but then when you read the disclosure, it literally says up to 5 years, typically. It's not up to, typically 5 years. You typically have access to your textbook for 5 years. Now, I had a lot of you who live in California contact the Attorney General and the Consumer Office for complaints, and nothing happened with several months of notice. So I assume that this law doesn't exist because it's not enforced, and laws that are not enforced don't exist. This is a class action lawsuit, and I wanted to read you the nature of it. This is brought against Audible for violating the Digital Property Rights Transparency Law in California. I wanted to get to the heart of this and see what it is they're saying. On its website, the defendant tells the consumers the option to buy digital copies of audiobooks they can purchase copies of. But when customers buy digital versions of audiobooks through Audible's website, they do not obtain the full bundle of stacks of rights we traditionally think of as owning property. When customers buy a physical book from a bookstore, they receive unrestricted ownership interest over it. They can choose to read it today, they can choose to read it tomorrow, they can keep it for themselves, they can loan it to their friend. They can place that book on their bookshelf and rest assured if they open the book 2 years later, the words in the page will still be there. The same cannot be said for when consumers buy an audiobook from Audible. Now, to be clear, there are programs out there that actually allow you to rip your Audible books and get audio files of them. I've used them in the past without any guilt whatsoever because I paid you for the book. Audible is not only a subscription service, you pay for individual books. And if I paid for the book, I'm going to get a copy of that audio file and I'm going to listen to it however if I want. If you're not okay with that, then fuck you. I think it's called Open Audible. I forget. It's been several years since I used it, but I'm sure somebody in the comments will happily let all of you know what the name of that program is. And once I confirm it's what I used, I will happily pin that comment. Instead, in many cases, they receive a limited, non-exclusive, non-transferable, non-sublicensable license to access the digital audiobook. I want to turn that into a t-shirt of some sort. Like you do not have the right to look at me. You have a limited, non-exclusive, non-transferable, non-sublicensable license to look at me when walking down the street. Tell me if you think that would make a good t-shirt. To access the digital audiobook, which is maintained at defendant's sole discretion. If Audible loses the rights to the audiobook, it will disappear from the consumer's digital library. California law prohibits this type of bait and switch. The California legislature recently enacted digital property rights transparency law that became effective on January 1st, 2025. The law declares that it should be unlawful for a seller of a digital good to advertise or offer for sale a digital good to a purchaser with terms buy, purchase, or other term which a reasonable person would understand to confer an unrestricted ownership interest in the digital good unless one of two conditions is met. It says the seller needs to either A, obtain an affirmative acknowledgement from the purchaser indicating that the purchaser is receiving a license to the digital good and that access to the digital good may be unilaterally revoked by the seller, or B, give consumers a clear and conspicuous statement that states in plain language that buying or purchasing the digital good is a license. It emphasizes that the defendant violated this law by advertising to consumers that they could buy, purchase, and add to cart audiobooks on its website without satisfying either of these two conditions. Now, for whatever you want to say about California law, I think this is a damn good law. I just wish they would enforce it. My issue is not the fact that California has created this piece of legislation. My issue is that they don't enforce this legislation, and legislation that is not enforced is functionally useless. But the idea that if a vendor is not going to let you own something, that you can't really use words like add to cart, buy, and purchase anymore, I'm okay with that. I think having more transparency there is a good thing. I think it would start waking up more normal people to it. And once more normal people have woken up to the fact that they don't actually own what they bought and paid for, they might just join the movement and start pushing back against this stuff to begin with, which I think is a great thing because the way that you get to this point to begin with is with most ordinary people not really realizing it until it's too late. And by the time it's too late and they figured out that it's a problem, they already own own have wasted money on 50 or 80 things that are actually subscriptions, leases, or rentals. Plaintiff Jeff Dietrich is a citizen of California residing in Big Bear City, California. Plaintiff purchased a copy of the audiobook Untouchable, The Strange Life and Tragic Death of Michael Jackson, authored by Randall Sullivan and narrated by Mel Foster on defendant's website on July 14, 2025. Prior to making this purchase, he encountered a purchase flow substantially different to the one depicted in this complaint. Plaintiff Jessica Farrell is a citizen of California, residing in Lakeview Terrace, California. Plaintiff purchased a digital copy of the audiobook Punishment-Free Parenting, authored and narrated by John Fogle's defendant's website in May 20, 2025. Good book, by the way. You know, if you have to beat kids, smack them, or yell at them and scream at them to get them to do what you want, you may just be a shitty, ineffective leader. She encountered a purchase flow substantially similar to the one depicted in the complaint. Audible, Inc. is incorporated in the state of Delaware and has a principal place of business in Newark, New Jersey. Defendant owns and operates the digital audiobook catalog available nationwide and found at audible.com. Jurisdiction and venue. This part I find completely boring. I am not a lawyer, and I just find this stuff just fundamentally boring and just don't care. Factual allegations. In the old days, when consumers bought something, they could reasonably assume that they would obtain the full bundle of sticks we commonly know as property ownership. In other words, if a consumer walked into a brick-and-mortar bookstore and bought a physical book, they knew it was theirs to keep. Customers could rest reasonably assured that they could place the book on their shelf and they could retrieve it whenever they wanted. If after a few years they wanted to read an old book they purchased, they could open the book and the words on the page would still be there. However, nowadays with digital goods, that is no longer a given. Many digital goods providers that sell digital goods do not actually transfer full bundles of sticks. Instead, they only grant licenses to access the digital content, which may or may not be revoked. The misunderstanding came to a fore in late 2023 and early 2024 when millions of gamers discovered that the game The Crew had been shut down. A man of culture, I can see. Ubisoft, a French game publisher, delisted, removed from his digital storefronts, and subsequently shut down the servers, intentionally stopping the operation of the computer systems that host online services or applications, effectively making them unavailable of The Crew. Upset by news of the video game servers being shut down, consumers and users of the game started a movement named Stop Killing Games, a little bit of grammar issue there, in an effort to protect buyers against having products destroyed by the company that sold them. This caught the attention of the California legislature, which was concerned about consumers losing access to content. The state of California addressed this exact concern by passing the Digital Property Rights Transparency Law, which ensures that consumers clearly know and understand the nature of their transactions, including the reality that may not have genuine ownership over their purchase. California bill comments. In an effort to protect consumers and require companies to inform consumers that they are purchasing a license, not the digital good itself on online storefronts, the California legislature recently passed a law requiring sellers of digital goods to provide an explicit disclosure for each purchase of a digital good, informing the customer of the true nature of their purchase, ensuring that customers have a full understanding of exactly what they've bought. The California legislature recognized that as retailers continue to pivot away from selling physical media, the need for additional consumer protections in the purchase of digital goods becomes more important. When a consumer purchases an online digital good like a movie or TV show, they receive the ability to view the media at their leisure. Oftentimes, the consumer believes that their purchase has been given permanent ownership of that digital good, similar to how the purchase of a movie or a DVD or a paper book provides access in perpetuity. In reality, though, the consumer has only purchased a license, which according to the seller's terms and conditions, the seller can revoke at any point. The law provides that, 1, it shall be unlawful for a seller of a digital good to advertise or offer for sale a digital good to a purchaser with the terms buy, purchase, or any term which a reasonable person would understand to confer an unrestricted ownership interest in the digital good or alongside an option for a limited time rental, unless either of the following occur. A, the seller receives at the time of each transaction an affirmative acknowledgement from the purchaser. I've already read this earlier because this part was already read, so I'm not going to include that shit again. This is also weak. Includes a hyperlink, a QR code, or similar method to access the terms and conditions that provide the full details on the license. I don't like that. And this is another area where this law is just kind of functionally useless for me. So you have this calculus textbook. It's 180 days, 1 year, or a lifetime. And you literally have a link down here that says this is a digital license in really small text. And when you click details, then you get this. Like, I'm going to see lifetime up here. If lifetime does not mean lifetime, that shit needs to say up here in size fucking 72 font. Lifetime doesn't mean lifetime. But let me know what you think. I'm a bit of a hawk on that issue. I would have not found that unless I was clicking around the page, and I think that they know that most of you are not going to find that. This is a digital license. How about typing you don't own this book? How about that? But instead of this is a digital license, details. Put up here, you don't own this book. Under this law, digital good means a digital audiovisual work and blah, blah, blah. So yeah, we already know that. It makes it unlawful to advertise or sell a digital good that a reasonable person would understand to confer cover unrestricted digital ownership in the good. Defendant's website, audible.com, is a digital storefront that gives consumers the option to purchase and download the digital audiobook copies. Audible advertises a variety of audiobooks on its website and tells customers that they can explore new worlds, and there are audiobooks for everyone. See figure 1A and 1B on the next page. Ready to get these audiobooks, a free trial. If a customer clicks on a particular audiobooks listing, such as figure 2 below, the customer is taken to the audiobooks listing page, which allows consumers to buy, with quotes. Nowhere on this page does the defendant indicate that a digital version of the audiobook is fundamentally different than the physical copy. It says buy for $29.95. Buy. After adding a digital audiobook to cart, if the customer is logged into their Amazon account, their payment info is automatically populated. If the customer is not, he or she is asked to add a payment method. Nowhere on this prepayment page is there an affirmative acknowledgement that the consumer understands that he or she is receiving a license, or a clear and conspicuous notice that the thing that they are purchasing is a revocable license to access a digital good. After inputting their card info, a consumer is taken to the final page before the execution of the transaction. A consumer can click Confirm Purchase to complete the transaction. Nowhere on this page is there an affirmative acknowledgement that the consumer understands that he or she is receiving a license, or a clear and conspicuous notice that the thing that they are purchasing is a revocable license to access a digital good. See figure 4 below. Confirm Purchase, not rental, not limited license, confirm purchase. The digital product's ephemeral nature is confirmed by Audible's terms of use agreement. The example in the figures above included a copy of the audiobook East of Eden by John Steinbeck. Audible's terms of use confirms that when you purchase content from Audible, you are purchasing a license that is subject to the rights and restrictions provided by Audible's license. And whereas if consumers purchased a physical copy of the audiobook, he could lend it to someone else to listen to. With a digital copy of the audiobook, the consumer is limited, non-exclusive, non-transferable, non-sublicensable license to access and make personal and non-commercial use of the audiobook. This shit really needs to be on a t-shirt. In other words, at no point prior to the purchase is the consumer ever put on notice in plain language that the audiobook he or she is buying is just a license that can be revoked at any time. Nor is the consumer ever required to provide an affirmative acknowledgement that he or she knows the limited property rights he or she is receiving with the purchase of the digital audiobook. There are many ways to comply with the law. For example, if a consumer purchases a digital video through Fandango, it provides a clear and conspicuous statement that states in plain language that buying or purchasing the digital good is a license. Confirm purchase. In buying this item, you're receiving a license. For license details, see Fandango Home Policy. And to be clear, I still don't fucking like that. But at least you're honest about the fact that you've taken away ownership rather than being a weasel about it. And again, given the choices here about you being a weasel about screwing me over and you being honest about screwing me over, I prefer this to the latter, but I'd really just kind of prefer to own things. Class allegations. Class definition. This is boring lawyer stuff. Boring lawyer stuff, car alarm. Plaintiffs demand a jury trial or trial by jury on all claims so triable. And this is why forced arbitration needs to go the fuck away. I like this. I mean, they're making a very clear case that Amazon broke the law in the state of California. I think that most of my subscribers, regardless of whether you live in California, don't live in California, love California, or hate California, can agree with a law like this, at least in spirit, that if you buy something and they use the word purchase or own, that you're not allowed to use the words purchase, buy, and own if you're not selling something somebody can actually own. I like that. It's not bringing back property rights. It's at the very least making it honest when you don't get property rights. I think that's okay. Forced arbitration would take away their ability to do this. And I understand this is just most likely going to make lawyers rich. Every class action lawsuit I've ever been involved in, usually I don't even know I'm in a class action lawsuit until I get a check in the mail for 53 cents that shows up on my fridge, because literally doing the two-factor authentication to deposit a check in my bank and logging into that, taking my phone out of my pocket isn't worth it to deposit a fucking 53-cent check after. Like, not to seem elitist, it's just I keep it up on my fridge as a reminder that class action lawsuits are mostly to make lawyers rich rather than actually taking the time to deposit the 53 cents and sign the back of the check, take a picture, turn it around. And I understand that, but that's not the point. The point of the class action lawsuit in this regard is not to give you an 8-cent check that goes on your fridge, because that's probably what you're going to get. The point of the class action lawsuit is to change the company's behavior and hold them accountable and responsible when they've broken the law. When companies take away your ability to take them to court, when they do that forced arbitration bullshit, what they're doing is they're taking away your ability to do what these people did in this video, which is say, you disobeyed the law. I noticed you disobeyed the law while trying to revoke my property rights, and I'm not okay with that. If I have to obey the law, then so do you. Let me know what you think in the comments down below. Also, I think the name of the program is Open Audible. I could be wrong. It was a Linux program that I downloaded a few years ago when I stopped using Audible because I realized that I had been paying a monthly fee for a very, very long period of time on top of the books. Like, when you buy a book on Audible, it's not like you pay $2 a month for a subscription, you just get access to every book. Because on YouTube, I could understand the argument with YouTube Premium. Like, I could understand the fucking argument with YouTube, right? Because with YouTube, if you pay $10 or $13 a month for YouTube Premium, whatever the hell it is now, Yeah, okay, you can't download every single fucking piece of music ever made because you only gave them $13. I get that. You know, it's ad revenue or whatever supported, or like they take a little piece of the $13 and they give it away to each individual artist. But with Audible, like you pay a subscription, but you also pay for the fucking book. Like you pay $15 for the book and you pay for the subscription, and I end it and like I don't have it? Are you nuts? So somebody made a program, it's a really good program that makes it very, very easy to download all of your books and then have audio files. And I think the name of it is Open Audible. I don't remember because I don't have it on this computer. I've changed computers like 5 times since then, and I haven't actually had to use for Audible. But I'm sure somebody will name it in the comments. And when they do, it's a very beautiful little open source program that just makes it easy to take all your Audible books and, well, you know, make them yours because you fucking paid for them. That's it for today. And as always, I hope you learned something. I'll see you in the next video. Bye now.